The village of Sabrosa in Portugal's wine district claims to be Magellan's birthplace. He was born in about 1480 to minor gentry, and at the age of 10 or 11 after his father died, he was taken to Lisbon to become a page in the household of Queen Leonor. She was consort to Prince John II of Portugal, who was known in his time as the Perfect Prince. Magellan was not living in Lisbon at the time when Bartholomew Diaz returned from the Cape of Good Hope, but he was old enough to remember the arrival of Christopher Columbus from his first Atlantic voyage. The last decade of 15th century and the first decades of the following century saw new discoveries and new trade routes opening up almost every year. By 1517, Magellan was approaching middle age, and after voyaging to India, the East Indies and fighting in Morocco, he still yearned to make new discoveries. After many years of loyal service to the country of his birth, he was spurned by the Portuguese when they refused to offer him the promotion he badly wanted. Portugal had made remarkable progress in developing trade with East. It was obvious that Columbus had been wrong to assume that the West Indies were near to the coast of India. But Magellan was still convinced that there was a western sea passage to reach the Spice Islands of the Far East. He wanted to lead an expedition to discover the passage, but his own country was much too busy developing the route to the east around the Cape of Good Hope. They refused to give him the support he needed. In the winter of 1518, Magellan approached Charles I of Spain with a proposal to search for a passage around the south of the America into the Pacific Ocean. This time, his application was accepted. He was given the financial support he needed by the Spanish king and a fleet of 5 ships. Magellan sailed first to the Cape Verde Islands, and from there he crossed the Atlantic on the direct route to Brazil. He explored the bay at Rio de Janeiro, but soon discovered that there was no passage through to the west. He ventured further south and explored the River Plate, but again the result was negative. There was no sea passage. The next problem to arise concerned the Santiago. She was reconnoitering to the south when she struck a hidden reef. The seas were so heavy that the ship could not haul off, and after hours of punishment from the stormy seas, she became a wreck. The weather conditions were so bad that it took 4 months for the news of the loss of Santiago to reach Magellan, and it took even longer for him to find and rescue the crew. By this time it was winter and snow had fallen. The ships were sailing in cold, harsh sea that seemed excruciating cold and raw to those brought up in the warm Mediterranean climate. When the mutinous crew of San Antonio realized the situation, they had had enough. They overpowered their captain, turned their ship and sailed for home before Magellan could do anything to stop them. Ferdinand Magellan was down to 3 ships, and he knew that many of his crew were still on the brink of mutiny. The voyage struggled on with 3 remaining ships. At last, Magellan found another passage to the west. His ships entered the strait with choppy waters guarded by sharp rocks on both the sides. They sailed past the rocks and battled onwards again. At night, they could see fires which they realized were made by the local inhabitants. They made contact with Fuegians but found them a very primitive and poor people. For 38 days and over 300 miles, Magellan's ship battled day and night through the straits. At last, at the end of August, they came to the final headland. The Straits of Magellan opened out to reveal a beautiful Great Placid Sea. Magellan was so taken with the smooth and calm sea that he named it the Pacific Ocean. Little did he know that he had been very fortunate with the weather, and at other times he could have been greeted by a sea as high and dangerous as anywhere on earth. Neither was he aware at the time that he was the first to enter into the greatest ocean on the face of the earth by stormy southern gateway. Magellan sailed northwards, keeping the coast for 1,000 miles. Then he discovered a northwest current and decided to strike out across the ocean on a course which took him with it. It was a rash decision because he had no idea how big the Pacific was or how few and scattered the islands were. He was already short on supplies when he left the land behind, but he made no attempts to find provisions before leaving the coast. He had no charts. He was not to know the scale of the vast watery emptiness into which he rashly led his ships. Day after day he sailed across the great ocean. Weeks after weeks they scanned the horizon for signs of land. Month after month they were disappointed. Magellan was very unlucky. He had little option but to sail with the wind and current, but he set a course that did not take him through any of the island groups. If they had discovered the Marquesas, Tahiti, or the Fiji Island, they could have had plenty of fresh food and supplies to replenish their stocks. Somehow, they retained sufficient water to be alive, but food was the pressing problem. It was not surprising that the dreaded scurvy set in. Men started to die from scurvy and starvation. They came upon a group of islands, but their hopes were soon dashed as the islands were seen to be barren with no human life and no food. They had crossed the equator into northern hemisphere and they still continued their course to the north and west. At last, just in time to prevent the Trinidad from becoming a morbid coffin ship, an island was sighted on horizon. It was the Isle of Guam in Philippines, where Magellan thankfully made a landing and stocked up his food supplies. On 7th April, the ships arrived at the island of Cebu, where he struck up a friendship with the local chieftain. What should have been a useful alliance for Magellan proved to be his biggest mistake, for the island was at war with neighboring Isle of Mactan. The chief persuaded Magellan to fight alongside him in the war. Magellan agreed. He was keen to show his friendship and cooperation, and he thought himself invincible in his steel armor. The flashing steel plates only made him an easier target for the enemy. The consequence was that the man who discovered the gateway to the Pacific Ocean was killed in a minor island skirmish, and Ferdinand Magellan never completed the circumnavigation of the earth. With their leader dead and there remained a long and dangerous voyage for the survivors, at least the long crossing of the Pacific was behind them. The three remaining ships sailed on without Magellan, and the second in command, Sebastian del Cano, took over the leadership of the expedition. One of the major problems they now faced was that although the deceased commander was Portuguese, the expedition sailed under the Spanish flag. The three ships were Spanish vessels in what Portuguese considered to be their own waters. Magellan's countrymen would show the expedition no mercy when they discovered the ships, and they were therefore obliged to sail well to the south of the main trade route, so that they did not encounter Portuguese ships on their way from the Spice Islands to the Cape of Good Hope. There were so few men left to work the ships that the Conception was burnt and her crew was split between the Trinidad and the Victoria. Victoria, under the command of Sebastian del Cano, took a cargo of cloves in the East Indies and set off back to Spain. The Trinidad was not so fortunate. The ship was in such a poor condition that it was feared she would not survive the seas at the Cape of Good Hope. It was decided instead to try and get shipped back across the Pacific to Panama. The Trinidad never made it to Panama as she was captured by the Portuguese and her crew were thrown into prison. It was until 3 years later that they were allowed their freedom and they finally limped home across the Indian Ocean. The Victoria arrived at Seville in September 1522. The cargo of cloves and spices were worth more ounce per ounce than cargo of gold. In spite of all the losses, the spices had returned a profit for the sponsors of the expedition. Only 31 men completed the first circumnavigation of the world, plus another 4 when Trinidad finally arrived home in Spain several years later. The 35 men who completed the first circumnavigation of the world were the survivors from a total of 280. It cannot be denied that Magellan's circumnavigation was a voyage that changed the world. He had found a way around the south of America into the Pacific Ocean, and he had proved what Columbus had tried in vain to demonstrate, that the Orient could be reached by sailing to the west. He also showed what geographers were beginning to suspect, that the earth was much larger than they had supposed, that the westward journey was much further than the optimists had imagined, that the earth was surrounded by water. It was not possible to get around the world by land. The earth could only be circumnavigated by sea.